Although George Clooney and his current wife give the impression that they are living it up, few are aware of the troubled history he has. Talia Balsam, his first wife, has just made an astonishing revelation, and the reason behind her divorce is anything from ordinary in a stunning moment. Why has no one considered the possibility that George Clooney is concealing something from his previous relationship? Talia Balsam looks to be happily married. Why is she speaking up now? Come and discover the astonishing life of George Clooney, including the mysteries surrounding his marriage. George Clooney keeps a less than happily revered background hidden from the public eye, despite his glitz and the renown of his five-star marriage to Amal. Has anyone ever heard of the tumultuous 20-month marriage that George Clooney had? His shockingly unhappy marriage to Talia Balsam is the one in question here. George Clooney and Talia Balsam's shocking love tale begins with an intense romance and ends with a sad wedding in Las Vegas. However, one must wonder why George Clooney's previous marriage had to come to an abrupt end. Fans and critics alike have been asking this for generations, and until Talia Balsam finally spoke up, no one had an answer. In a shocking admission, Talia said that she had no ill will against George Clooney, her ex-husband, and that she has done an admirable job of moving on from their failed marriage. Her most recent project was an episode of the popular TV show Divorce, which dealt with the dissolution of a marriage. But no one expected Talia's surprising response when they asked how her on-screen problems related to her genuine life experiences. Without a doubt, Talia did not avoid the subject. On the other hand, she said, if you're trying to compare George to Thomas Hayden Church's character, not at all. George, in her opinion, is charming and always will be. Her statement caused quite a stir in the industry, leading fans to inquire more. Why did Talia speak so kindly of George Clooney? Had their union been truly blissful? If that were the case, then why did it end up breaking up? A flood of inquiries sent fans into a frenzy. Surprisingly, the truth was not prepared for by anyone. To set the stage, let's look at George Clooney's life from the outset so we may better comprehend what happened during his first marriage. The individual was born in Lexington, Kentucky on May 6, 1961. George Clooney was born into a famously famous family with extensive roots in show business. His famous TV host father, Nick Clooney, and beautiful queen mother, Nina, were his parents. Although many might assume that Clooney's rise to stardom was easy, he was actually exposed to the glitter and glamour of show business at an early age. George started off his acting career with a string of little parts in television shows that nobody really cared about. In the 1990s, he eventually achieved success after years of hard work and perseverance. His breakout performance as ER's Dr. Doug Ross catapulted him to fame. The charming and defiant doctor became a favorite among viewers shortly after his introduction. Clooney received multiple accolades and accolade nominations for his performance, including 2 Primetime Emmys. He became a household name thanks to this role. Major film parts began to pour in shortly after. It seemed as if Clooney had always been in the film industry. From Dusk Till Dawn was his 1996 film debut. He demonstrated his acting chops in this Quentin Tarantino-helmed horror film. Clooney was able to break into the Hollywood industry because to the financial success of the film. But Clooney really broke through as an A-list actor in 2001. He portrayed Danny Ocean in the Ocean's 11 heist film, which included a star-studded cast. Clooney gained famous for his charming and slick performance as the gangster boss of a heist. 2 sequels, Ocean's 12 and 13, followed the critically and commercially successful Ocean's 11. These parts were tailor-made for Clooney, who once again proved himself to be one of Hollywood's most accomplished performers thanks to his charisma, humor, and silky performance. However, Clooney wasn't content to only star in films. Directing and producing films fulfilled his ambition to make films with deeper meaning. A black and white historical drama about journalist Edward R. Murrow and his struggle with Senator Joseph McCarthy, Good Night and Good Luck was co-written and directed by Clooney in 2005. Best Picture and Best Director were among the 6 Oscar nominations for the critically acclaimed picture. An award for Best Original Screenplay was considered for Clooney. Syriana, a political thriller, was Clooney's first Oscar win that year for Best Supporting Actor. He was already widely regarded as one of Hollywood's most versatile actors when he won an Oscar for his portrayal of a former CIA agent. The accolade was a recognition of his talent for fully immersing himself in intricate characters. The body of work that Clooney has accumulated as a film director is quite remarkable. In the 2007 courtroom thriller Michael Clayton, he portrayed a lawyer with conflicting morals. He was nominated for another Oscar for this role. Up in the Air, a touching drama about corporate downsizing, which he starred in 2009, garnered him even more critical acclaim and another Best Actor Oscar nomination. Acting and directing are only 2 of Clooney's many talents. As a producer, he has also achieved renown. His 2012 political drama Argo, which took home the Oscar for Best Picture, stands out among his works. In addition to directing and producing the picture, Clooney was also involved as a producer. George Clooney's versatility as an actor was on full display in the box office smash. Throughout his decades-long career, which has garnered him 2 Oscars, numerous Golden, it's no surprise that George Clooney is still one of the most famous and adored actors in Hollywood. Fans of all ages like him because of his charisma, humor, and indisputable brilliance. Despite the success in his career, Clooney's private life was in a state of flux. There was a marked difference between his successful professional life and the turbulent connections he had in his personal life. Although George Clooney's professional life is a lovely tale of achievement and praise, his marriage history is anything but. While they were both young and navigating their jobs, he wed Talia Balsam for the first time. They started their brief romance in the 1980s, when they were both rising stars in the acting world. Even though she was born into an acting family, Talia was already a household name. Meanwhile, George was unable to earn his big break. Friends in Hollywood introduced George and Talia. George was still in the process of growing his career and trying out for gigs when this happened. Talia recognized his unique qualities despite his hardships. Their chemistry was palpable, and they hit it off right away. George has said in multiple interviews that Talia was his first true love. Passionate and exciting, their romance progressed rapidly. It seemed as if their hearts were meant to be. Their romance quickly gained attention from the community. They had their whole lives ahead of them as a youthful, attractive couple. And a lot of people thought they were bound to be happy. But there were also low points in their relationship, despite the deep bond they shared. Even though they briefly split up, the pair eventually got back together and decided to tie the knot. Following a rekindling of their romance in 1989, George and Talia made the monumental decision to tie the knot. Their lavish Las Vegas wedding was the talk of the town. By Hollywood standards, it might not have been the most conventional or extravagant wedding. It was still intense and full of thrills. At the time, George and Talia's passionate love story appeared like something out of a fairy tale. While the wedding day was a time of pure bliss and passion, the events that transpired thereafter were anything but. Shortly after George and Talia struck the knot, their marriage started to tremble, despite their love for each other. Their relationship's fragility became apparent as the joy of their wedding rapidly dissipated. The intensity and excitement of their romance waned as time went on. They were both at crossroads in their jobs and lives, and no matter how hard they tried, the stress was getting to them. Shortly after their hasty nuptials in 1990, George and Talia decided to end their marriage and sought a divorce in 1992. Because their relationship had seemed so passionate and loving at first, this development shocked many. Later that year, they finalized their divorce, which made news all throughout the entertainment business. The couple divorced without having any children to show for their marriage. Many people were curious about what went wrong because of how quickly their once promising union ended. George insists that he is solely to blame for his first marriage's demise. He has admitted in interviews given throughout the years that he was unprepared for the obligations of marriage and has spoken openly about his troubles at that period. George made it clear that Talia was not to blame for their divorce. He insisted that she had been an excellent wife and that his failings were the only ones to blame. Clooney has said in an interview that he was not the type of person who should have been married at the time. He was totally accountable. Detailing his priorities, which included putting his work ahead of his role as a decent spouse. Talia tried her hardest, but her ambition was no match for his, and his priorities were elsewhere. Does George's confession absolve Talia of all responsibility, though? Truthfully, it's not that cut and dried, much like many failed marriages. Their divergent personalities and life situations were key factors in the breakdown of George and Talia's marriage. Talia Balsam had a rather affluent upbringing as the daughter of actor Martin Balsam. Even though she wasn't famous, she was able to develop a successful career because to her connections in Hollywood. However, George continued to have difficulties. He was actively seeking gigs, going to auditions, and attempting to make his mark in show business. They had an imbalanced dynamic right from the beginning. George was completely focused on his job, in contrast to Talia's desire for a steady, conventional marriage. His desire and ambition, however admirable, didn't allow for a harmonious relationship. George acted differently than one would expect from a married man at that period. Living carefree at home, he would attend industry functions, parties, and events. Their marriage quickly declined since his dedication to his job was greater than his devotion to his wife. Actually, hearing that George was married stunned a lot of people in Hollywood, given that he was clearly not living the life of a married guy.
As George's career took off, another problem emerged: his attractiveness to women. Although Clooney's marriage was already in a precarious state, his growing stardom won over many female followers. His charisma and good looks only made things worse. At the time, Hollywood was abuzz with rumors that George had ulterior motives towards Talia. It was well known that George enjoyed being with women, even though no allegations of infidelity had ever come to light. And the rumors persisted despite his growing attendance at social gatherings. Their relationship was clearly affected by George's lifestyle and rising stardom, regardless of the veracity of these rumors. Despite Talia's best efforts, the division between them was irreparable due to George's obsession with his work and the increasing attention he received from women. George, looking back on these times, admitted that he was just terrible at marriage. He was honest about his lack of maturity and how it affected his ability to be a good husband. Regrettably, that insight was post hoc. Their divorce wasn't bitter, despite how quickly it was finalized. It might be possible for George and Talia to put their differences aside and go on with their lives. Talia has surprised her followers once again by frequently praising her ex-husband. George is lovely, according to Talia, who has always insisted that their troubled divorce was for the best, even if their marriage ended in turmoil. After George Clooney, Talia's life has been absolutely fulfilling. They have a son together. She wed actor John Slattery in 1998. The professional and personal lives of Talia and John have become intertwined. Both actors played married couples in the hit TV series Mad Men. Their real-life friendship translated well to the film, and vice versa. Talia's second marriage is a long-lasting and blissful one. She appears to have finally found the love and security she longed for after her first marriage ended in divorce. While Talia swiftly re-established her romantic footing, George Clooney's journey was far from straightforward. The George Clooney we know and love today, the spouse of Amal Alamuddin and a doting father, is obviously not the same George who was married to Talia Balsam. Thus, what transpired to reverse the situation? Many thought that after George Clooney's marriage to Talia Balsam ended in divorce, a Hollywood star would take a lesson from the ordeal and find happiness again. However, George's intentions were different. Instead of seeking stability or getting into another relationship, he startled everyone with a shocking decision. Clooney made it clear in interviews after his divorce that he was over marriage. "I was bad at it," he admitted, laying bare his inadequacy as a spouse. Many would have thought this was ridiculous, but George was dead serious. Plus, he was faithful to his word for a long time. Being one of the most eligible bachelors in Hollywood, he wholeheartedly embraced his single status. Although he was seen dating some of Hollywood's most famous ladies for decades after his breakup with Talia, George remained distant from marriage. His attractiveness, charisma, and obvious talent made him hard to refuse. But George would not stop fidgeting. As an alternative, he dated celebrities like Kelly Preston, Lisa Snowdon, a British model, and even over the years, there were numerous partnerships that didn't last. George kept his private life out of the limelight and stuck to his bachelor lifestyle despite the never-ending conjecture and rumors about his romantic life. George Clooney's image as a ladies' man continued to rise, and many began to think that the eternal bachelor would never tie the knot again. Many thought George would never be able to settle down because of his affairs with some of the industry's most stunning ladies. But then something shocking happened, and everyone thought he would never find true love. Amal Alamuddin and George Clooney met. An exceptional human rights lawyer, Amal was not your average Hollywood A-lister. Actually, she had little to do with the celebrity scene that George had spent his entire life in. A common acquaintance brought George and Amal together at Clooney's house in 2013, when they initially met. Her radiance, intellect, and dedication to the issues she supported captivated George, as he would later confess. George fell madly in love with Amal in a flash because she was so much better than the other ladies he had dated. Not long after their first meeting, they started dating, and George immediately felt that this was different from his previous relationships. He had no interest in Amal's renown or wealth. She was well off professionally and didn't require his help in any way. George was so moved by this that he began to seriously consider getting married again, something he had not done in decades. George made the most romantic proposal imaginable to Amal only 1 year after they first met. After he had prepared a home-cooked dinner for her, he surprised her with a ring. Amal was taken aback, but she agreed nonetheless. George Clooney, who had previously vowed never to get married, was finally prepared to settle down, and the news quickly spread around the globe. Their September 2014 wedding in Venice was the stuff of fairy tales. All around the world, people were talking about Amal's wedding dress, a breathtaking custom-made Oscar de la Renta gown. The wedding was graced with the presence of Hollywood's elite and dignitaries from around the world.
At a stunning wedding held at the Amman Canal Grande Hotel, a happy couple exchanged vows against a background of the lovely Venetian canals. It was a glamorous wedding, but it was also symbolic of George Clooney's metamorphosis, and that's why it won over so many hearts. After swearing off marriage for good, the man was now free to express his newfound love. The revelation that came a few years after George and Amal's marriage startled the public even more. The ever-chaste George Clooney would have a family of his own. They shared the happy news that they were expecting twins in February 2017. Due to George's previous statements about his desire for no children, this news came as a shock to many. But his life took a dramatic turn when he became a father. Alexander and Ella, their twins, were born to Amal in June 2017. Being a father was a role George never imagined he would play. George has been very forthright about the profound impact that fatherhood has had on his life. Being a father, particularly at his age, was something he never anticipated. He still can't fathom a world without his kids now that he is. Despite the exhaustion that comes with fatherhood, he has spoken about the joy that his twins offer him in interviews and how much he loves spending time with them. George is fully committed to his new job as a father. And he frequently brags about how his focus has changed ever since Ella and Alexander were born. However, parenthood is just one aspect of the Clooney family's lives. Some of the world's most powerful people are among George and Amal's many friends. Among the couples they have a special relationship with are Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Both spouses have been there for each other through thick and thin. Prince Harry and Meghan's 2018 royal wedding was attended by George and Amal. Having a front row seat at St. George's Chapel, George and Amal's friendship with the royal couple, which they had developed through years of living together in England, was further solidified by their attendance. George and Amal welcomed Harry and Meghan to their Lake Como residence after the royal wedding. During their stay, Amal and Meghan spent the day lounging by the pool. Simultaneously, George and Harry were more active, doing things like riding bikes around the estate. Both spouses have become close friends, and they often lend each other a helping hand when they're out in the public eye or doing good deeds. Their marriage has not been troubled by the whirlwind relationship or the indisputable love that George and Amal had. George keeps himself extremely occupied as an actor, producer, and director, while Amal juggles the bustling demands of a legal job. The limited amount of time they spend together is a major obstacle for them. Due to their busy schedules, George and Amal reportedly spend barely 10% of their time together each day. Keeping a close bond while you're separated all the time has proven challenging for the couple. It was already a highlight of their hectic lives when word got out that George would be away for a whole year on set. Amal and the twins had the ideal getaway at their stunning Lake Como property, which the couple had rebuilt together, while George was on set. On the other hand, their relationship would surely face difficulties during George's lengthy absence. The couple remains determined to overcome these obstacles. Despite their current separation, George and Amal have maintained their optimism about their partnership and the value of communication.